Find out just how resourceful you can be in this classic game with its mixture of action and adventure and RPG elements. Step into the shoes of Mike Jones, a teenage star pitcher from Seattle who has come to the tropics to visit his famous archaeologist uncle, Dr. Jones. After being told that his uncle has been abducted, Mike begins a perilous quest in order to rescue him and figure out the mysterious plot behind his disappearance. In good old StarTropics from Nintendo, released in 1990. This is a game that existed. Unlike most of Nintendo's games, it was never released or intended to be released in Japan. It was released only in North America and Europe, although designed by Japanese designers living in the United States. It was produced, written, and directed by Genyo Takada of Nintendo R&D, which also developed Punch-Out! The game was added to the North American Virtual Console in 2008 and PAL regions in 2011? That seems wrong. Maybe a different day, same year. It just says January, 11. StarTropics was followed by a sequel entitled Zoda's Revenge, StarTropics 2, released in 1994 on the NES. So we are Mike Jones. We get dropped off on an island. We are here to visit our uncle, Dr. Jones, Dr. J, on Sea Island. When Mike arrives at his house in Coral Cola, Dr. J is missing, and Babu is scared to death about it. But Babu lets Mike use Dr. J's submarine, which is piloted by a robot named Navcom, to search for him. On a nearby island, we find a letter from Dr. J. It states that his uncle has been abducted by aliens and that he needs Mike to save him. Mike and no one else. Traveling to many isles of the South Seas to find his uncle, Mike encounters monsters, puzzles, several quirky characters, and a number of intelligent animals, such as Peter, the talking parrot, and a mother who pleads with Mike to find her son, a mother dolphin, that is. StarTropics 2 is played from a 2D top-down perspective, similar to Legend of Zelda's dungeon areas, and adds various role-playing video games on the NES. However, StarTropics is linear and has a constant storyline. Also introduces towns and overworlds and things like that. The game is divided into a series of chapters through which the story progresses. In each chapter, Mike initially walks around town or other areas talking to NPCs and obtaining information. After speaking to the required people, Mike will often then travel to a cave or other ground area, and it is here that the game switches mechanics. The view is much more zoomed in, with Mike traveling through rooms that are usually one screen large. Mike initially attacks the enemies with a yo-yo, renamed to the Island Star in the Virtual Console release, which has a short range. Later in the game, it can be upgraded to 2 more weapons, adding range and power to his attacks. In order of appearance, we get the Shooting Star and the Supernova. These upgrades, however, require Mike's health to be at a certain level to be available. Again, kind of like Zelda and the laser swords. Otherwise, the item will change back to the next lower item. To use the Shooting Star, Mike needs 6 hearts full of health, and the Supernova, you need 11 full hearts, which makes it a little more important to find heart containers throughout the game, which many are scattered through the world. Mike can accumulate other weapons, which are baseball themed generally and specific to each dungeon area. You cannot take them with you. Some items, were renamed according to the operations guide. There are baseball bats, baseballs, also called Wonder Horse hides, cleats, which are known as spikes, torches known as fire, bolas, known as twisters, the asterisk or twin cross blades, which are similar to shurikens but can split into 90-degree angles, slingshots, reflective mirrors, 2 types of laser guns, and more. These special weapons, however, do not carry over from dungeon to dungeon, as we said. Additionally, Mike can collect several items that have different uses, such as a lantern for lighting darkened rooms, a snowman that freezes the enemies, and the Rod of Sight to make ghosts appear. There's also a magic stopwatch that slows or stops enemies, and a magic anklet that allows Mike to jump twice the distance until he moves on to the next room. Mike has a life meter, which has a max of 22 hearts, similar to Link. The meter can be expanded by finding big hearts, which are heart containers. Sometimes a healing item called Vitamin X can be seen in some places in the game, which can temporarily fill up all of Mike's hearts, even the ones he doesn't have. But your heart meter will slowly drain down until it matches the maximum amount of hearts you actually do have. You lose hearts when you take damage. Hearts can be refilled by finding hearts or stars from enemies or inside hidden rooms. 5 stars will give you 1 heart. Additionally, Mike can use potions. to refill health, which he can store in his inventory to use at a later time. However, they do go away once you exit the dungeon. Mike has 3 lives and must restart from the beginning of a dungeon if he loses all of them. It is possible, however, to have more than 3 by obtaining try your luck signs to either have more or less lives depending on what number is shown on the sign. There are dozens of different enemies within the game and some instant kill traps such as spike pits, platforms that sink, and giant bowling balls. Upon reaching the end of the game, Mike will usually fight a large boss character, which often requires a unique strategy to defeat. And there's a point system, there's a point system in the game, which, unlike most games, reduces for every enemy killed. Actually, better to not kill things. How about that? A unique aspect of StarTropics involved a simple piece of paper resembling parchment that came packaged with the game. Written on it was a letter from Dr. Jones addressed to Mike, asking him to visit him at his lab on Sea Island. It was as if the actual player had intercepted the message and wasn't being invited indirectly to play the game. In later parts of the game, Mike receives an enigmatic message from his uncle through a third party. Evil aliens from a distant planet. Tell Mike to dip my letter in water. Even for a player who owned an original copy and thus was more likely to have the letter, it was unusual for an NES game to refer to a physical object that would otherwise just be a novelty. Although Infocom games have been doing this for some time with the feelies that were included with their game. This prompted the player to think that Dr. Jones might be referring to an object within the game. To add to the confusion of the puzzle, putting the paper underwater might damage it. Regardless, the correct course of action was to dip the physical piece of paper in water. It revealed a secret message from Dr. Jones and the number 747 that must be used in order to advance the game. Since many retail stores and used game retailers often do not have boxes or manuals, it is difficult to find a copy with the original letter, requiring the use of game manuals or walkthroughs to complete this part of the game. Nintendo Power was asked this question often enough that they published the 747 code as part of their Counselor's Corner soon after their article of the game. After completing the game, a slideshow of events from the game is shown, including the letter being dipped in water and the number 747 visible on it. For the Virtual Console release, the letter is included in the digital manual with an image of a letter and a bucket of water at the bottom. When the player clicks on one of the images, the letter dips into the bucket and the code is revealed. In the European release, the letter simply has a click here link at the bottom of the letter. That's it. It's great. StarTropics generally received positive reviews from critics upon its release. IGN praised the creative gameplay of StarTropics, calling it the natural evolution of the original Legend of Zelda. And this is a pretty darn good game. I've enjoyed watching it get Let's Played by a couple of different people. I have enjoyed Let's Playing it. It does get kind of hard, though. And I'm one to believe that the sequel fell short when it came to this one. Some of the things they changed were smart. It just didn't quite have the same, island courage